Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to False Advertising, the show that tells you why you're wrong. uh,
Wow,
Joining me today is Donnie, the boy,
what's good?
and today we're going to be talking about social media and kind of how it's shaped the way that we interact with the world and how it kind of has taken this thing that was a tool used for just communication and has driven into becoming its own like subculture. So that's kind of cool. Anyways, like for those of you that don't know, because we typically think of social media as something like Instagram or Facebook, which are all true. But social media itself is anything that allows you to communicate and network with others. This could be anything from Discord to your YouTube, your LinkedIn, to even things like WhatsApp, right? As long as it brings you and other people together, and you have the ability to be social, that's exactly what it is. And in one like form or another, I think almost all apps these days are headed towards the social media aspect because the more social you are, the more engaging you are, and the more engaged you are with a certain platform, the better it is for those people, right? Like
Yes, sir.
if you were going to develop a game and you could, why would you not have like ways to stay on it more? Why would you not implement ways for you to interact with the community, with other people, and become a huge force that drives everything forward?
Woohoo! Let's talk about everybody who wants to have their own games platform.
Fair.
All that community shit now, yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about WhatsApp because I think that is the most recent news where they changed their privacy policy and they are no longer offering the same non-discretion that they used to. I feel like you should go for it.
Really, nothing changed. I think they just changed the way that they tell users about what they're doing. But man, did like nothing actually change. The company, Facebook, owns Facebook and Instagram and WhatsApp. Those are like its three major chat platforms. And I guess Messenger, if you don't want to include that as like part of Facebook. But they have that whole like whatever market of their apps. WhatsApp was always kind of prided as this like texting alternative. It's always kind of held true to that just like light messaging app. I know it's really, really popular in India. Well, it's really popular in a lot of places in Asia, but mostly in India. And even just like around like older populations. Like my family uses WhatsApp group chats to talk to each other with just about everything. Not my, especially my like slightly older family, like all my family in their like 30s,
Fair
like
enough.
late 20s to like early 30s, sometimes even late 30s, like all of them are on like WhatsApp. Yeah, it kind of has this like interesting spot in the market. And it was kind of seen like they've always kind of talked about their like end-to-end encryption, that it's like very, very like strict on delivering messages to only the people that are supposed to see them and like very secretive about that. And then
Right.
basically the news that made headlines was that they're changing their privacy policy. So now that like all of the information that you were exchanging on WhatsApp was getting forwarded to the parent company of Facebook. And I guess the expectation was you would keep the stuff in that bubble of WhatsApp, like WhatsApp the company, like and then encryption, right? Like my data stays in this little bubble. I don't want my stuff going to anyone else. I just want it to go from me to whoever I'm sending. SWAT.
Yeah.
So they kind of just basically started saying like, oh yeah, your information is going to be shared with like parent company for like marketing and to improve your experience and yada yada yada, which is true and has apparently been true since basically like 2016. It didn't have any effect on like its end-to-end encryption stuff. Like they never were sharing the messages, or at least like on paper, the messages were always like Facebook doesn't see your messages ever, right? Or even in most cases, like for any chat app for that matter of fact, like Facebook Messenger, Instagram, nobody's going in and like reading your messages they get sent from
Right.
person to person. Even in like end-to-end encryption, I think there's always that expectation like nothing's actually like fully private for like legal reasons. If there's like, I don't know, God forbid, like child trafficking or like abduction or like whatever, people are talking about like criminal shit on their messaging platforms. There's always ways to find those messages,
Yeah.
and that goes for like any platform that you're using. Um, so there's that. But basically, they're sharing like location data, device info, like time of use, how long people use the app for, just like collecting anonymous quote unquote data about how people use the app. But I mean, how anonymous is it? If you have your WhatsApp and your Facebook linked, then that's all just kind of building their marketing portfolio or marketing
Yep.
profile that they use to send targeted ads and stuff to you. So But like I said, basically the only thing that actually changed with this news headline was how they communicated it. And it's been this way since 2016, basically. Like the policy itself never changed. They just started communicating it in a way that started making people realize, oh, hey, this is happening. So
Yeah.
that's fun.
I mean, there's two ways that any and all social medias have to respond. And it's, do you want to like be in charge of your platform, or is it an unmoderated mess, right? So like if it's just like a thread or a post board, you don't have any say in how it goes, right? Because it's like it's now like part of the public domain or whatever. And that's where you have like best case scenario, you have Wikipedia. Worst case scenario, you have fucking 4chan, right? But neither of those people are really able to shape the nature or the way that things happen. And if you are looking to make money, that's not going to do you anything, right? So if you're like a company like Facebook, you want to do targeted ads, right? Essentially, the idea is you have all of the attention, so you filter the attention, and then you give that attention to the people that are paying you the money for certain people.
Yes, sir.
And so if WhatsApp is going to be part of the Facebook umbrella and want to like contribute to that, that means they have a certain amount of accountability for what you're doing on their platform, and that means they're then entitled to do things, right? Like people are freaking out about the WhatsApp thing, but I mean, how many people fucking use WhatsApp for like their more spicy conversations? I feel like your Instagram DMs or whatever messengers you have like are definitely where that's happening, right? And
Yeah.
that is the thing, is like that has even less security than WhatsApp does. So it's just interesting that like the second someone like blows a whistle and freaks out, and I've seen so many people talk to me about WhatsApp in the last week, but like these are the same people that post the most fucking ridiculous shit on Instagram in the DMs and group chats, and I'm like, well, the same company has access to all of that, right? Like, do you care about this one thing? Because if you do, you care about all of it. Or is it just
yes,
unsettling?
Wow, you raise an interesting topic about the social media and accountability for your platform. I think a lot of I'll bring it up. We can glaze over it though, but there's other like things you can talk about. Like a big one, we're on Twitch. You could talk about the PogChamp. You heard about that, of course.
That actually was crazy to me.
That one was really funny. And to a more extreme extent, but we can gloss over this one because this one's a little more on the controversial side. You can talk about Twitter's stance on blocking Donald Trump's account, but kind of all in this vein of basically like social media parent, like as the owner, right? Like these are still all private companies,
right?
We do kind of like, I feel like this is relevant to kind of how your social media presence exists and what kind of presence you have to choose to take, because we've gone from a point where social media is not just like DMs are still DMs, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we have like direct messaging, and we also have like the more I guess message board, for lack of a better word. You have like your Reddits, your Twitters, your Facebooks, anything with like public posting,
right?
And those are owned by private like these are owned by companies with images that are allowed to kind of do what they want with their like their platform can stand for what they want, right? Like that's their right as owners of a company. I feel like we kind of don't realize how much we are susceptible to that.
Yep.
As people that now use social media as a means of free communication, like it's kind of like in a lot of places, social media has replaced news, right? Like most people will find out about world, like I'm even guilty of this, to be honest with you. I find out about a lot of world news because I see people that I follow on Instagram post reaction posts or stories or stuff to it, right? Mm-hmm. Like, and that's a very like interesting kind of, I guess, just thing to be aware of, right? That we kind of, as we start to get more, as these social media and chat platforms that are privately owned by companies that have agendas, as has been evidenced by like the actions these companies have like, I don't want to go, like, I'm not saying what they did was wrong. Like, I think like Twitch has a stance, and I kind of agree with what they did. Like the guy, sorry, I guess we should actually talk about that news story, right? Like the quick TLDR of that PogChamp guy. I don't even remember his Twitch handle, but the PogChamp emote.
Ryan. That's about all I remember.
Unlucky, but I don't remember his Twitch channel. But there's like the dude, right? The dude is like famous because the streamer is the face of the PogChamp. Like it's the dude, the Asian dude making like the O face, and that's the like most famous emote on all of Twitch. And like he was basically memeing up the whole thing on Twitter, I think it was, where he's basically like, yo, dudes, let's go. Let's start some riots. Like, let's keep it going. But like, I don't think he was serious about it, but he definitely memed up the whole situation and took it very lightly when the riots were happening on Capitol in Washington in early January. I don't remember what actual day it was, but just to time box this for the future.
Good text.
But when those like, when those when like those aggressive riots were happening, he was basically like encouraging it and memeing it up. And Twitch was like, yeah, no, that's not okay, dude. Like this shit's kind of serious. Like all jokes and memes aside, don't meme about that shit. And so they removed the emote from Twitch and you like got everybody on board to take it down. I think now what they did is like they're going to have different Twitch faces or like different big Twitch stars have their own PogChamp in rotation. So it's not just going to be the same dude. It's going to be like a bunch of people imitating the emote and it'll like rotate through them every so often. Mm-hmm. But yeah, like they took a stance, right? And that's kind of they own the platform. So they're kind of, thank you. Yeah. Gutex is the
name
tag or the streamer. Yeah. Thank you for that. But yeah, but like that's kind of their thing, right? They have that platform. They have this, they can kind of choose in some ways what they are okay with and what they're not okay with. And that's something to be aware of on these tools and these platforms that we're now taking is just, this is how we communicate, especially like now in a really, really digital era, right? Like this is the way that we communicate, but the ways that we communicate have these kind of filters on them.
Yeah.
And if you're not aware of it, like, yeah, it's just.
So I want to know your thoughts on the Trump Twitter thing, right? Mm-hmm. Because I think it's weird where Twitter talks about itself like it is an unbiased, central, like almost like they moderate, but not really. But I feel like over the last couple of years with Trump, they've been pretty savage. And I've had some people go on both sides where like, well, I'm happy that he's gone. And then on the other end, like I've had people say, he should have been impeached, but he should have been banned from Twitter. And I look at that curiously. But at the same time, without stating my own opinion, there are people that are on Twitter that are like actual scumbags, right? Like internet criminals. There have been people that are just like very toxic on any side of any political spectrum. And then there have been people that are like actual like crime committers. Like they'll use their handle for anything, and like you'll find notorious like 4chan users that just happen to have a Twitter handle. And I think that's really interesting. Is like Trump is taken down because it's buzz. People will talk about Twitter. I don't know if that's the reason, of course. But like I don't know why you would ban Trump or something like that.
I think, well, I don't know. I don't think I like to believe that all of these social media sites do genuinely believe that there's like value and merit in being unbiased. Like I think, I don't know. I feel it's a very new thing. I feel like for a very long time, anybody with a social media wanted it to just be a place for communication and kind of just be fully hands off. Mm-hmm. Cancel culture has kind of made that impossible now, where there's now basically any for-profit business that operates needs to like live in fear that now that like their conglomerate's actions, like however public views that particular entity of a corporation, whatever that means, right? Whatever public opinion is of that directly correlates with profits now in a meaningful way. Mm-hmm. Like, and that's like been proven, right? Like we've seen like individuals, celebrities, businesses come like it's just kind of, I don't know if we can like quantify or really scientifically measure it, but it can happen. Mm-hmm. So now there's more of like where, it used to be like, all right, let's just be hands off and like let it vibe. You let it vibe in the wrong direction, and all of a sudden, like if you let I'm like a smaller minority vibe too hard in the wrong direction, now the angry majority cancels your company, and now you don't make money, which is really what they care about more than having the chat platform, like like
Of
chat
course.
platform that everybody can communicate openly, like to your point before. I'm sure at some point everybody was like, dude, we're gonna have this place. I know it's gonna be rough, like some weird shit's gonna get said, but hey, open communication. Also, we can make money off of it. That's great. And then they're like, okay, shit, we need to also make money off of this. That's kind of more important than the other thing.
And you
So I
want
think that's where we
everybody
start
in.
seeing people like Twitch take a stance where they're like, all right, we're gonna just like draw a line in the sand. And by draw a line in the sand, I kind of mean like get like an industrial sized fan and kind of blow dust, because like I don't know, like it's weird, right? Like where there's really no line in the sand when you're like, all right, you can't meme about riots in Washington that's causing violence and has led to death. So like,
But
I don't
you
know.
can
Does that
meme
mean all
about World
meme?
War II, right?
You know what I mean? Like is memeing about protests? Is it like, are we gonna? Yeah, so it's like not really a line in the sand. It's kind of like, yeah, like fan over Sahara Desert kind of thing. But that's where people get kind of, that's where the like, I think a lot of the debate sparks from, right?
Right.
Because there's no sides. Nobody's on one side or another, and that's why it kind of sets a poor precedent.
Yeah, that's fair.
For like, because now they're judged against this action, right? Like, well, I don't know, is XQC going to say something racist? Like, well, I don't know. If XQC says something racist on stream, that'll get canceled for sure. But I mean, like, I don't know. What could XQC say on his next stream? Will Twitch ban hit? Like, again, will like he get, like, I don't know, right? It's kind of rough to say. Like, that's just an example now where, and everything they do going forward is going to be judged based on that. And that's what makes it like a sticky situation. So looping back to the whole like Trump Twitter thing, right. It's just vocal enough and it fits into that like case of like loud minority is going to upset their profitable majority. I think whether Twitter wants to admit it or not, it is a very left-leaning platform.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think like the way that Twitter has grown as a company and its like community has grown, it is very like democratically leaning, like liberal, left, whatever political, like that is where the majority of it is. So I feel like for them, somebody up there is making like the executive decision that it's more in their profitable interest to take that stance against this like smaller existent base in order to avoid like basically the cancel culture stuff that I mentioned before.
Yeah.
That is, I know, sorry, that was a very long-winded answer, but I wanted to. I don't want to like. I don't want to hand wave this off because I feel like it's sensitive, right? Like I don't think it deserves to be. Like I think there is validity on both sides, and I don't know which side I land on. But that's just my thought on what actions they took.
Yeah, and like for sure, you need to do justice to stuff like that. I really do kind of think that all of Silicon Valley is interesting politically. Like, I don't want to get too into it, right? But like,
that's a whole episode on its own.
Like the branding is always left, and then you look into the numbers, and then it's on the right. And yeah, they live their nice in between. Like,
yeah, they have their cake and eat it too.
But going back to just social media in general, yeah, they definitely do try to step in and like nudge things in a direction that they see is beneficial for them. You'll notice that we call everything DMs these days, where they used to be PMs, right? They used to be private messages, and you knew that nobody was looking at them, right? And over time, as we started switching platforms, they started calling them direct messages. So you're directly messaging this person, not that you have privacy anymore, right? And just the fact that they switched that implies that there's a huge difference, but I don't think a lot of people caught that. So that's always fun and interesting.
I'd be curious to look into what the actual origin of that was. I wonder if that's it. It has to be something similar, like the story of like when cruise control used to be called autopilot.
Wow. Right.
So like back in I don't remember, I know like 2000s, maybe even 90s. I don't remember how old cruise control is. It might have been the 90s, but like some dude basically like went back like to get something out of the backseat of his car. Like he pressed the autopilot button and then went into the backseat of his car and like crashed. And then he won in court because he was like false advertising. The car said it would autopilot. And like that is the reason they had to change from like it used to be called autopilot, was the name of like the control when it would just hold your speed. Like cruise control just holds your speed at a certain speed. So like when you're on the highway, you don't have to like whatever fudge the gas and brake or whatever to maintain 100 or whatever speed you're doing. Whatever legal speed limit that isn't over the provincially approved standard. But yeah, so like I wonder if it's a case of that. Like what happened? Like did a criminal get away because a social like did he get his private messages revealed in court? And he was like, these were private. They shouldn't have access to these or something. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I wonder if
Yeah.
something stupid like that happened in order to bring about that change. But yeah, it is an interesting thing. I do
There's a
I know
Reddit
it's more
thread.
true in WhatsApp.
Yeah, there's
Oh,
a
did you find something?
I mean, there's a couple of people that blame Twitter, and then they say that like it kind of spread really quick after that. But yeah, it's just an interesting thing, and yeah, you're gonna catch a lot of those little things about social media that you should always understand that there's a reason behind them. But I want to get into the lighter things because we started hella heavy, and I feel like
Yeah, hell yeah.
we should pull up a little bit because a lot of the stuff we want to talk about today is not necessarily so intense. For instance, I think social media has really changed the way that people save face. For the longest time, right, like before social media, if you told someone that you were coming to an event or a party or whatever, right, you would tell them, and then if you're two faced, you didn't show up, or if something came up and you have to explain yourself later. Now, like our VSPs are like literally on a button click, right? And it's like yes,
Mm.
no, maybe, and you can just set that. You can say, oh, I didn't see it. You can say maybe. You can say yes, and then say something came up, and it's just like you can have so much social buzz about something, but no commitment because it is so much easier to say you're gonna do something. Right, kind of like how last week we talked about how it's easier to host things because everything's digital. It also means that like things are easy to say you're going to do if it's digital, but not that you'll necessarily do them.
Hmm. Well, that's fair. I almost wonder. No, that's interesting. I wonder if it's almost like the I don't like inverse of that almost. Like we have more like I wonder if we almost have like more presence, you know what I mean? Like more like if the number of opportunities that social media has enabled outweighs the like miss factor.
Mm,
Like like basically because it was so much harder like if you think about like prior to so like what are you going to do like mail out invites to people like mail out invites to people you haven't talked to in a couple years or whatever you're like
for like
limited
a
to
wedding or
whoever's in
something,
your
yeah.
local in like your local vicinity having to like reach out and it's hard to imagine any time before like digital communication is just readily available. Actually, let's not even go that far back. Let's just think like when like email communication. I still needed to like find that person's email address or like get in touch with them some way. And
Right.
then you're like sending out like like kind of like just like a almost like throwing blind darts, kind of like, oh, hopefully they'll hear it, hopefully they don't.
Mm-hmm.
Or
Hopefully they check their
hopefully,
mail.
yeah, or like hopefully they check their mail. Maybe they do, maybe they don't. And now it's almost like you fire off like because you always get people inviting you to like your page or like whatever thing they're working on if you want to connect with old friends it's just like oh yeah I have all my friends from high school let's just start a reunion like let's
Right.
just have like 10-year high school reunion is a really common one I've seen with like a lot of my millennial friends that are like slightly older. I don't know if you've had stuff like that you're like
I mean, I'm sure it'll
slightly
happen soon.
but like yeah like we'll have maybe not 10-year but like I've had some friends older where it's like oh yeah like we're all on Facebook so they just send it out and it's like sure you can like hit yes and then make up excuses but I just wonder if that increase of volume outweighs the like wishy-washiness of it
Yeah.
because now you're just able to make connections that you weren't able to before.
Right, which was the whole point of the platform, right? Because
Yeah.
social connections, while outside of like, I guess social media are a lot more genuine in the sense that you need to actually show up in person and the commitment's larger. It is just easier to network, and therefore, like you have the double-edged sword where you can do whatever you want with all the information on the people at your fingertips, but all of it is surface level,
Hmm.
right? And I think that kind of bleeds into like how people have responded and how we act, right? Like how social media has affected us, right? Like when you take a look at your parents or grandparents, depending on your age and your own skill sets when it comes to socializing, they can be very different, right? For example, like definitely North America because like the UK is its own kind of like they have their own social norms. But think about how frequently like your parents' generation or your grandparents' generation spoke to strangers like at the bus stop or just passing by saying hello. Like I feel like we have a lot less of that now, Not that it doesn't happen, but it's definitely a lot more fleeting. Unless I would say it's usually sexual in nature, where if you see someone and you're interested and you make a sly comment and then they have that engagement, that is probably the most common thing I will see. And that's usually like at a coffee shop or a bar or whatever. I don't often see people that are just standing, chatting, and actually make friends. Like that doesn't happen too often. Whereas I feel like that used to happen all the time back in the day because how else would you meet people?
Hmm. Like yeah, it's like these rules of engagement for talking to other humans, basically. Like,
Right.
no, I don't know. I guess yeah.
And now you could be literally by yourself with no one you know in a new city, and you have all of your old friends at your disposal because they're right here. You don't need to go and make those new connections if you don't want to. And because it is harder to go do those things, it just makes it easier for you to exist in your own bubble and continue that way.
Yeah. That's a I wonder if like that's actually yeah, that's a really interesting way to like the thing you bring up about just like moving to a new city now, and it's almost um like are we more likely to hold on to older connections,
Mm.
right? Like are we less likely to like the has social like it that's actually a really interesting point. Has social media actually made it like harder to make new friends in some cases? Like yes and no. I don't like
Like I would say, if you don't have a purpose for expanding your social circle, it makes you more unlikely to make new friends. Right? You'll still meet them in the new ways, whereas like a friend brings a plus one, or like if you're even
mhm.
doing things virtually, you're having a game site and someone's like, "Hey, I want to invite my friend to this." But like you talking to someone that is just randomly in your network that you don't know, I think is a lot more unlikely because why would I do that when I can have a conversation that I know I'm going to enjoy somewhere else? Right? It's the same
Yeah.
reason that you have like curated content. Why am I going to
Yeah.
browse out for something new when I know I enjoy this in front of me?
Hmm. That's interesting. That's like a I don't know. I never like I wonder what's the trade-offs of like having like cuz like you said you have all this easy access to people that you've already established connections with. But at the same time these communication tools well, theoretically and ideally I guess make it easier for you to reach out or like find new people,
Yeah, for
which
sure.
I guess kind of transitions into like what we were saying about the like rules of engagement and stuff like that. Like this whole sliding into DMs culture,
Yeah.
right? Like I, I'm gonna be real with you. Have you ever like okay, I can speak for myself, but have you ever received DMs that were not either I guess this is weirder, I guess, for as a guy, but like the only DMs I've ever received are either romantic or like work, and not in that order. Usually work first. Like it's usually they want something. Like it's if it's ever a stranger, it's always like, oh, I saw your work. I need something done, or like I need a favor. Usually a favor. They usually don't want to pay me, but whatever. It's
Okay.
usually something work related, and then maybe secondarily, once or twice, maybe ever, I've had like somebody with the intention of like, oh, I'd like to go and like have coffee, get to know you, but it was like a female, and those are the
Okay.
only DMs. Like I feel like I've never actually had like friendly, just
Right. So
cold call DMs.
so I think there are four types of DMs that I've ever received, right?
Okay.
You have the people that are trying to hit you up, right? Like whether it's because they're a girl that wants to
Of
get
course, that's
coffee.
number one for Ryan. Yep.
Uh, um, I mean, but sometimes like they don't even know you, and it's just like one of those like spam bots. Of course, you also get the people that are there for business, right? Not necessarily the business that you have or own, but they want you because you can better whatever they're doing, right? This is where I'm talking about people that are. Oh man, we keep dropping. Um,
I can hear you now. I can hear you now. Yeah, I saw the internet like potatoed for a
how
second.
much? How much of that did you miss out on?
Oh yeah, their stream dropped. Um, I heard the first type. I made the meme about people hitting you up, and then I cut to spam bots.
Yeah, so like the idea was like they could be hitting you up or they could be a spam bot, but like the idea is it's something like love. The
Yeah,
second
yeah, yeah, really.
right, the second type would be people that are there for using you as a commodity, right? Whether they want to
Mm-hmm.
build you as a brand ambassador or whatever, they want to just capitalize on your network. Um,
Yep.
the third I would say is like the people that you've talked to like recently, and they're responding to something that they forgot about, like, hey, you mentioned this or whatever. So like kind of along the terms of like friends that you don't know that well, but it's definitely not a cold call. It's like, hey, we talked,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
I
Okay.
want to follow up on this. Now this is the fourth, and I think this is the most interesting. Is as I've decided to use social media more and more, I try and make engaging content. Right, like I'll make a story or I'll do a post, and those are the ones where I will get people that I have never talked to before, but we have each other in the networks, and they'll start a conversation.
Interesting. That's cool. That's like playing the social media game, which I
Literally,
don't do. But like that is like, hmm. You know, that actually kind of makes sense in a lot of ways too. Like, and kind of goes in line with a lot of like what I've heard friends. Like,
right? It's
it's
like,
kind of funny. Like, sorry, this just like sparked a whole new thing of like, I know a lot of people who find their career or find the things they want to do in like through content creation. They don't make a career out of content creation, but it is almost like a friend of mine started doing like TikToks. Like he just started like he's an actor, I guess. He's also does like voice acting and he's done like commercials. He's done background work and stuff like
that's
that. But
really
he
cool.
was like as like working as an actor.
Hmm.
And I remember like when pandemic started, he just like started taking TikTok more seriously. Like he just
Right.
started like he went to like thrift shops, picked out like costumes and stuff, and just started like doing the makeup and stuff. And he
Oh,
would like
nice.
duet with celebrities and like do things because they would start doing like people would do like their own like custom duets of like small scenes and things like that.
Right.
And he's like just found acting opportunities and like communities and stuff through engaging through that. So like, is he going to be a TikTok celebrity as his career? Most likely not. But by playing the social media game basically and being a content creator, that's basically you're in to now have those like that's almost like your icebreaker to what you're saying now. Like he's managed to like
Hmm.
duet now, or like now he makes content with other people who are like, yo, this is funny, we should do stuff together, or even just like talking with people. And then he has like there's like they do shows on Twitch and stuff like that. There's a bunch of like charity streams and shit for
That's
acting they
sick.
do now. But it's like, huh, yeah. It's like that just made me like that's
Yeah,
absolutely
it's funny. The more you feed
mm,
into like the business of social media, whether it's you're trying to build a brand or a product or just like hone something, like if in his case his skill, and maybe just like get some more attention going, the more that you're going to get the opportunities that social media tells you you have just by inherently being there, which are wrong, right? Because like social media always brands as like you can make new friends, you can do these things, and like yeah, that's fair. All of those things are at your fingertips, but you need to be active in any community, in this case social media, for you to get that engagement and to build those connections. Otherwise you're
that.
just kind of letting it just chill.
Yeah, that's actually, you know what? I think that's a like really good takeaway. Or like I don't know, maybe I it seems kind of obvious, but I feel like it's really nice to vocalize that kind of point of like, holy shit, some dude outside my house is revving his Honda
Yeah,
Civic.
I hear it.
He is going absolutely nuts. Calm down. I know he's dude just put the potato in his 2005 Honda Civic, just right
Hmm.
put that in the muffler, ready to go.
But like that's the
But
reason I have a dead Twitter, and not a dead YouTube, right? Because I am talking to other content creators. I continue to engage in my YouTube and my Facebook and my Instagram and a little bit with TikTok, but my Twitter, my LinkedIn, they're pretty much dead. Besides me going, so I feel bad. I should probably post something, just to say that I still exist, right? And it's just the
yeah.
more time you put into something, the more you get out of it.
Yeah, no, but I think that's like a really good takeaway. Like, and even just goes into this. I recently watched a video by an old content creator that I followed. His name is Star. He was a TF2
Hmm.
Star underscore. He was a TF2 content creator. He made YouTube videos and stuff. And
Right.
he made like a video that basically he'd been like dormant for like a couple of years. Well, on his main channel, he had been dormant. He started like doing Twitch streaming and doing secondary channel stuff. But he
Hmm.
basically made a video talking about like what happened, and it was basically he became popular in the TF2 community, which was like notoriously toxic, like just like
Yeah.
horrible community of just like we're here for TF2 and TF2 alone. But he was like he wanted to be a person that like made cool shit,
Right.
and he was not finding fulfillment in just churning out like TF2 videos where he just talks over gameplay and
Mhm.
shoots things, but that's like all people wanted.
Right.
And it is kind of like it was basically just a commentary about like the kind of I don't know, just the self entitlement of like social media consumption almost. Like as a viewer watching content and how you feel like entitled that like this person is like I am doing them a service by watching their content. So
Right.
they should cater to the things that I want. And I feel like that's almost like it just really made me think about it with social media and a lot of like the false advertising of like social media is this place that you go to like just get and
Yeah.
never like you don't like I think I don't know, maybe this is just like articulating this is also just like really I think like good for me
Right.
to kind of hear this. Like I don't know, it's like something just clicked in my brain kind of talking through this out loud as well, which is why I want to bring it up. But it's like really you there is that playing the social media game of like content creation is not like you don't need to be a content creator or some famous celebrity. You don't need to pop off doing it.
Mhm.
But that's like that is basically the initiative you're taking in order to get back in return. It's like
Absolutely.
you're giving to that community as well. So like wherever you find that community, whether it's like in a Twitch chat, that's why people like small streamers so much, right? It's like you can put something into that community,
Right.
and then either you connect with that streamer, or you connect with other people in the chat, or you become a part like
Mhm.
by contributing and not just watching the content. Like some people want to watch, and that's fine, right? There's nothing wrong with that.
For sure.
But it does kind of answer the like, oh, I'm always on like I'm always on Twitch, I'm always on Instagram, I'm like all the time, but like I don't talk to anyone or anything. Like, are you also putting in that effort, or am I like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like the
So
jump from a parasocial like connection to the social ones and like making real networking happen, making
yeah,
real
yeah,
friends is that consistent effort. Just like having your friends in real
real
life.
friendships. Yeah, just
Exactly,
like
right?
how it's like how if you just tag along and kind of just sit, if you're just in the group that always goes around, you're just invited. Like if that one friend just invites you, but you don't actually try to socialize or do anything, you're just that friend's plus one. You just stick by their side, and you're like at the end of it, damn, I made no friends at that. Well, it's like, well,
Funny
yeah,
how
he
that
didn't make any.
works.
You didn't. Yeah, crazy, right? So it's like
Mhm.
the same thing is true in social media, and I feel like I kind of like you implicitly figure that out at some point,
Yeah.
but I think that's like really to articulate that and really like realize that there's like different the same way you have to put effort into real social interactions. There's just different rules of engagement when it's on social media, or like the way
Totally.
you do that accomplishes the same thing but looks different.
Yeah. And what's interesting about those
Damn.
like rules of engagement, right? They're different than real life. So
Hmm.
how do people act online versus IRL, right? Like, what is the difference between someone when you're communicating with them, like on Instagram, on Twitter, on whatever, and then when you see them in real life? What do you think are the major differences that you see?
um I feel like it varies from person to person. This is a very blanket broad statement.
Oh, for sure, right?
But I find that extroverts are way more boring. Extroverts are boring texters.
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those people. Uh,
I feel like people that are more extroverted are worse at texting, and introverts are usually like I don't know. I've just met so many people through like whether it was just people that I talk to online where it's not awkward, but it's definitely different. And I've like noticeably different where
mhm.
like we'll like be like swearing and joking and like all kinds of just like dumb shit, just absolute like I don't even know how to describe, just stupid, just brain dead humor
Yeah,
when we're just texting. Like it'll just be like very like every chat feels like you're at 4 a.m. just high out of your mind, right? But
yeah,
there's no drugs, there's no sleep deprivation. It's just the kind of conversations you have. But you meet in person and they're like really timid and shy and just like kind of awkward, and it like takes some warming up to. And it's just really funny to see how that pans out. That is like my biggest observation. I don't know if you have any other ones. I'm trying to think of like more specific than that.
so I think like Instagram or like Instagram especially, but you know Facebook to a lesser extent and Twitter really tell you to put your best foot forward, be your wittiest, show them your best moments, and like show like this genuine authenticity that you have, and like put it in a certain way.
Hmm.
And so what I think is curious about that is a
Oh.
lot of people put them they're like the very best moments for. Like if you took the last 10 years of your life and you snipped it down into like 100 moments, that's kind of like what some people live by on Instagram. And so they look like they're living this crazy life that's so good, so awesome. And then like it kind of becomes that lie. This is why like some influencers get, hauled and get canceled or whatever, because people like try to promote their best selves, and when you go to meet them, they're clearly not that. And so I've met a lot of people that are like nervous wrecks, but they have like 5,000 Instagram followers and they're doing well. And the difference is some people hide it, right? Some people are like, hey, this is me, and that's awesome. It's authentic. I love it. And then some people are like, oh, just on a cruise, whatever. And little do they know that like they're there for 2 seconds for that photo, asked for a favor.
Right.
Right, like it's like you always see those people get exposed where they're like posing in front of a car, and then like the guy actually walks up and is like, "This is my car. Can you please get off?" Like that kind of thing.
Yeah. I wonder. Do you know about or like Finsta culture and like spams? Is that
When you say
are you friends with
Finsta,
people in that?
I assume you're talking about things like the Bow Wow challenge and stuff, but I'm not quite sure.
Okay, like basically it's like alt accounts. People have like Instagram alt accounts. I don't know if that's
I know
in
people
your
that have
age, right?
Finstas.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That's what this is basically called. They're like alts or spams or whatever.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like you make like it's like the equivalent of. I mean, they tried to fix it with like close friends. Instagram kind of implemented close friends that kind of replaced that system.
Right, but that's
I
only
remember,
for
like,
stories, right? Like that's
for
not
only
for
for stories.
posts.
Yeah, like in high school, I used to know people who would like, or even still do, like they make a spam account where they like will post whatever the fuck, and like they have only like their close friends following it.
Yeah,
and it's like a private account, and then they also, and that's like that's like their actual account where like they'll like post all their like dumb shit and like really stupid stuff and just be completely themselves. And they have like the public, that's what you said before, where it's like only artsy and like very curated.
Mm-hmm. Man, some of people's Finstas are like the most high quality content I've ever seen. Cause like sometimes you'll see their Instagram, they're like, oh, added another day, right? And then it's like you check on their Finsta, and it's like a meme face of them, and it's like, my life is in shambles. I'm doing the same thing day after day, and I'm like, oh damn, I feel that.
Usually most of my friends' Finstas are usually just like blurry photos of them. I had a friend that would basically like every single time, it would usually be like 3 to 4 times a week, and it was just like some dumb way she managed to take a photo while moving her camera on like her fucking Samsung Galaxy S4,
right,
or like ancient device, and it would just be this like smeary blurry mess, but like part of it was fine, but like half the photo was blurred.
Yeah.
And basically every single one was like an abstract painting, and it would usually be like with some like spiraling depression caption of like,
I love that.
One step closer to the great unknown, or like some stupid shit like that. It'd just be like a photo of like her, like it would just be like a bathroom selfie, and it would look normal except like the bottom is stretched.
Right. And that's how you know you've really gotten on someone's good side, is if they have like the Finstas or something, like, all right, join.
Yeah, exactly.
Some people do that too with meme pages. I know a couple people that instead of just having a Finsta, they post memes that are really spicy and like might offend people. So it's like they only bring in their closer friends so the world doesn't yell at them.
Yep. All that good fun stuff.
But on the other side of that too, right, you have the people that want to only promote the best image of themselves. And I want to know your thoughts on people who buy followers or buy a following and like buy people to comment, whether it's bots or organic. What do you think about that whole culture?
I don't know. I guess it depends, right? Like, play the game, I guess. Like people play the game, they want to play the game. The algorithm is not the algorithm is very real. Okay. I don't know so much about it on Instagram, but I do know that shit works wonders on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like getting yourself on the trending or getting yourself just like in the right space for anything can do wonders for your channel. I have to imagine it's pretty similar for Explore. I know people that like really hustle on the hashtags. People got that shit down to a science, which is like true. But yeah, I don't know. I don't feel great about it, but it's like at the same time, I don't know. I mean, like ideally in a perfect world, like that shit just shouldn't happen. Like you just shouldn't be able to buy
Yeah,
followers, I guess.
no, that's fair.
But like if I had to, but I don't know. It's not like offensive, but it's like you would like to believe that good content is like that. That's kind of like the promise of social media, right? Like if you are funny and you make good content or whatever, if you are good at whatever it is you're trying to be, whether that is the most attractive or the funniest or
Hmm.
whatever content, like if you are successful at doing whatever the goal you set out to, then it should rise in that category,
Right.
which is kind of the promise. But I do believe there is what do they say? There's like there somebody has like a really good quote. It's like half of it is perseverance, um like what a third of it is talent, half of it is perseverance, and the other like 20 leftover percent is luck.
Hmm.
Basically, where it's just like it goes down in that, right? Like the most important thing is keeping at it. The
Yeah.
second most important thing is actually being good at your craft, and then the last thing you need to actually get anywhere is hope you just hit the right time. Like just ride whatever wave you manage to catch. And
So
that's how like most, yeah.
yeah, so I've never bought followers, but like I can give you my anecdotes here, because
Mhm.
like on both TikTok and Instagram, I've had periods of time where I let it go organically, and then where I implemented marketing strategies. On Instagram and Facebook, it was through both ads and like a couple people. Like I didn't do the follow for follow trend, but I target followed people, or rather like I have a social media manager at times, and
Mm.
like we would target people that would follow things that like were similar to my own content. So when it was like the Instagram DJing things, it was like, okay, what are like the promotion companies in town? What are the party companies in town? And where can I get a following from that? Like a couple of the bars, check the people that go out a lot, follow those people. Those people mostly follow back, right? And then over time, you just end up having a bigger following that's invested in your content in some way, shape, or form, because they're already in that niche of like they follow the bar, they follow the parties, and then they're gonna be
That's
engaging on
smart.
my yeah,
Yeah.
totally, right. And
It makes sense.
this is how I went from like 500 followers on Instagram, just as like chilling, to like 1,000, and like I could probably continue to try and boost it. But for me, it was just interesting that out of those extra five, or actually I think it was like an extra 600 I have now, um, like those people engaged in my content. I would post something like as a story, and some people would reach out, and I've made a couple of connections that way, which is interesting. But on TikTok, the same thing cannot be said, because it's like a little bit more everyone's scatterbrained. And so while the
Mm.
algorithm might post your stuff a little bit more, it doesn't necessarily mean tons more engagement. I would say that like you will definitely get more plays, but not as much feedback.
I feel like that's just true of TikTok in general. I always find it crazy that I don't even know if I ever understood really what picked up on TikTok. It was like Vine. It's kind of just like it's just all this very like niche humor. Like I know there was like a handful of Vine like stars, like people that got like
Yeah.
I know like Kevin Hart and a handful of people like blew up because of Vine.
Hmm.
But like I I'm gonna be honest with you. I have a like I genuinely believe like the Vine and TikTok trends was 100% just were they attractive. All the people that blew up on those platforms, I think it was just because of looks. And the only reason I said looks or charisma, one or the other. And the only reason I say that was because even if you had funny content would get shared, it did not boost engagement. Like good, well-made content on its own did not like lead people to like follow the individual. You either needed to be like, oh, this is like a hot dude, I want to see more of the hot dude, or like, oh, this is a charismatic dude. And like that platform just didn't lend itself. Vine
So
specifically.
yeah,
I don't know so much about TikTok, but I feel like TikTok absorbed a little bit more of that as
so
well.
I totally think that that happened on Vine for sure. I think TikTok has definitely sidestepped a little bit. As someone who like really follows TikTok, or at least did
Mm.
for a time. You'll have I think we're seeing new types of stars, or like social media celebrities and influencers come out of TikTok, because not only do we have like the cute people that are like the equivalent of like the Instagram thought or whatever, and like they get their ads through lifestyle whatever, and people just see the product that's placed. I find that because TikTok is a lot more like dopamine based in the sense that like they want you, like it's more important for you to share and interact with it instead of just reposting it or watching it a lot. um, you're gonna have the people that are like the people that are funny are coming out of there, which is cool. You're getting a lot of music because the big thing about TikTok is the music, right? You're getting people
Mm-hmm.
that are making total music careers out of TikTok, which is great. But I hate to say this is weird, but there's a new space on TikTok that is like exclusively for the snowflake persona. And I'm not saying that it's like it's so unique. It's not that like they're overly soft human beings, but it's like they bring the energy of like this is a chill place. I'm just vibing. And sometimes like they have this persona of like you're gonna like pity them because like their life's going wrong. And other times it's just because their energy is like super chill. But it's just weird. It's like the vibe has become kind of the thing that super launches some of these people.
That's cool. Yeah, I was just like TikTok was so weird to me. Just, I guess maybe it's different. I used it for a very short time, but like content in that was so just like just so like stream of like it just played at you
Right.
unless it was yeah, which I guess is interesting that you mentioned that like the music like it was basically um the platform was basically to me it was almost like they gave you a television that is constantly like flipping through channels. That is all that TikTok was. And it was 100% on the content creator to create something that in a short enough time would actually get you to stop and explore more of that page or channel. Like it doesn't do a lot of favors for the content creator, which is why I think it was just like when I same with Vine, right? Like when you have 7 seconds to leave an impression or whatever it was, it lended itself more to like just a charismatic or attractive people just by nature because they just made better first. Like it's just easier for them to make better first
Because
impressions.
right away you look, there's value. You're like, okay.
Yeah, right. Like, and that's why I feel like that one specifically. So TikTok didn't have that restriction, but it's like you're basically just like flipping, like you're just scanning through channels. Like it's so not about the content creator unless the content creator makes it about them.
Right.
So it's really interesting. Or that was my impression. So hearing you talk about how like people basically sell a vibe or like make good music, which is another thing that people will really easily see value in if they hear music they like or they hear.
Mm-hmm.
So that's really cool.
Yeah, and I think hopefully over time this will shift to social media that is not about like the surface level things, and it's about like the real quality of people's work and what they put in there. And of course, there's always going to be that do you market it right? Is everything clean cut? Is it nice? But you know, it is what it is these days.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
That's really neat.
yeah.
Cool
and I
shit.
think that's why people love the platform, right? You have the
Yeah,
potential to do more with it than Vine had for almost the same amount of, I guess, investment.
Mm.
So something I
No.
wanted to ask you and get your thoughts on is it fair to judge someone based on their social medias, right? Because social media has become this thing that we all do, and it is kind of just inherent going forwards in how we exist. Like, are you going to judge someone on their social media?
Probably. I don't know if I can't. Like to be honest with you, I don't know if I've ever had a situation where like that's basically it now, right? Where I will. I think it depends on the context and where I meet them.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest with you, and it's an interesting question. Okay, actually, no. I'm gonna say I don't personally. I don't judge people based on their social media.
Okay.
That is also, but it's very personal in that I usually don't view somebody's social media before getting to know them.
Right.
Um, like I guess like probably the reason I say probably is like there's been a handful of times where like I would say the majority of people I am more likely to follow you if we met on a night out than I am if I actually regularly talk to you.
Right.
At
That's
least
fair.
on public facing socials, like socials like Insta or Facebook is what I mean, or like even Twitter, like whatever, any social media where you could have a public presence. I am more likely, because it's like if I'm actually talking to you on a regular basis, we probably are like mutuals with other friends, which means I'm like talking to you on Discord or like through a group chat or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that means we're interacting in DMs, and then I never really see the need to like your public facing social is not actually that important. Usually the only time I'm actually seeing people talking, or like I'm actually talking to people and getting Instagrams, is like we met in passing and like, oh, you seem cool, I seem cool. I want to make sure we don't like lose each other, basically.
Right. So here's where I think you are going to be a dying breed. Um, which is funny, right? I'm calling you the
Mm-hmm.
dinosaur. Um, let's say that you are sitting with a group of friends and they're talking about someone that you've never met before, right? Most
Mm-hmm.
usually they're going to give you their social media, whether it's their Instagram or their Facebook or something. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna scroll through there,
Yep, you're right. Nope.
right?
Yep. Yep.
And then on top of that, right, when it comes to potentially meeting up with other people, you're gonna vet them. So let's say you meet
Yeah,
someone.
never mind. I retract everything I just said. No, you're absolutely correct. I've done this before. And I will probably, I'm not gonna lie to you. And yeah, I just had this exact thing before. And I like straight up, if I go onto your public, if your public facing Instagram happens to have a lot of photos of you drunk or at bars or at clubs, I get the impression we're not going to get along very well. Like if that is if those are the things that you're choosing to put like front and center, like that's not saying anything bad about it. Like, you know what I mean? But like
But
that's
that's
just
not your type of
my,
person.
that is a
Yeah.
judgment that I will get from those kind of, like if that's the thing that's like front and center, that's your public facing,
Mm-hmm.
like that's what you think is your best foot forward to show. Then yeah, I've been in that position where like somebody was talking about someone and I was like, oh, I think it was like literally a dude was like, oh, I think you would find this girl attractive, and that was like, and her thing was just her at bars, and I instantly gave him his phone. I was like, nah, I'm good, bro. Like,
Yeah.
like it was like photos of. I didn't even ask him which one the girl was. I was just like, nah, there you go. Because it was like a group photo he showed me, and I was like, yeah, I'm not interested.
Right, and this happens for more than just like someone they're talking about. Like if you're gonna go to a party, right? Who's gonna be there? I don't know them. You check their social medias. I want to set you up on a date with this person. Who is this person? Right, and you're gonna make these snap judgments, and it's become this thing where social media is now like a resume of who you are to other people.
Yep, you're absolutely correct. Scratch everything I said. I mean, everything I said is still true. I am more likely, but like for that reason, I almost feel like I make better friendships through people when I don't engage through their social media at all. Like I feel like it's like easier to be more like just like it's easier to get to know a person for who they are.
Yeah, I agree.
Because I'm gonna like I just passed a judgment on that. Like, right? Like that girl could have been like completely fine. Maybe we would have gotten along great. Maybe whoever like that person would have gotten along great, and they just also have like to have a good time.
Yeah.
Like I made a huge inference there, right? Like that's, and I mean it was probably right. Like it was probably a pretty fair guess, but at the same time, right? Like who knows? Is it way like, I don't know. Is it like it's hard to tell, right? Like, is my intuition correct, or is it just the fact that meeting people without prejudice or without like expectations going in is easy? Like, go figure. It's easier to be open minded when you don't go in with expectations or like a
And here's the thing, right? Is I think
something
you
in the
will
back of your mind.
probably have a better experience if you're meeting this person, regardless if you go in with open expectations. But the thing is, if you get to choose what you're going to do and which pathway, your intuition, if it's decent, is going to be usually right. Probably not all of the time. There's definitely not all of the time. Probably not most of the time. But if it is significantly more, like let's say 60% of the time, it's right. Uh, in your own mind, you're like, okay, I'm going to tailor the experiences I want in my life, and there's only so much information you have to go off. Unfortunately, like I think a lot of us like do neglect to give credit to the fact that all of us are a little bit more than what we show, right?
Yeah.
If you have half a brain, you definitely have more going on than just the shit you put out there. But like at the same time, you do put those things out for a reason, right? You're subscribing to certain ideologies, to certain groups of people, and If that doesn't appeal to you on like the first thing, then there's a reason that image exists, which is hell of like it's a weird consequence of creating this homage to the world that anyone can access.
It's a very interesting one that people pointed out, and it's like one of the easiest tells is how much a person puts their own face on their social media
Mm,
is a really interesting tell. Like the psychology of that one, like reading people's thoughts about it. That one is at least for in specifically personal relationships. Doesn't apply obviously if it's like if the person is like a large figure.
right.
Like if it's like if they're like in the thousands of, and it's clearly like then there's business goals or there's like something else going on besides those. But like
As we
how
scroll
much
through mine, and it's just like all my face.
well yeah, but like go figure, you're trying to build a brand based on your
Yeah,
personality.
yeah.
Like who would have thought, right? But
Yeah.
like that's what I mean. It was like specifically talking about like that's just like an easy tell. Like you can see like do they have some photos of themselves? Do they have no photos of themselves?
Right.
Do they have photos of themselves but no face? Like I don't
Yeah.
know, like I remember reading that and it was really interesting. Like I remember like I took that one and I just started like going through all the girls that I was following like on my Instagram, like all my high school friends. And I was like, holy shit. Like you can see some of them were like almost all of them are photos with them with friends.
Right.
Some of them would only have it photos of like it would be like half photos with friends, half selfies.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them would only have like candid photos. Like some of them would never have photos they took of themselves.
Right.
It would just be candid photos or photos other people took of them.
Which are like the
some
best
of them wouldn't
aesthetically.
yeah, but like they would have their own photos,
right.
but never their face. Like it would be photos of them, but like from behind or like side. You wouldn't see, and I was just like, wow, it's like you would see like all these different, and you're like,
yeah, these are
almost like
these are the social tells of like almost someone publicly Snapchatting the world, right?
Yeah, in a way, right?
Yeah, you can definitely tell a lot from that. Also, like going above that, right? Usually with like the way that they post, you can kind of gauge how many followers they aren't going to have, and kind of where they fall into like the social classes of media users, which is funny, right? Because like,
oh god,
right? Like social media was originally a tool, right? We use it because it lets us connect more, and now it's gone and driven its way into driving culture. It like you use Facebook a certain way, you use Twitter a certain way, you use Instagram a certain way, because they all have their own quirks, and that's just the nature of how you're going to interact with them. And because of that, whoever excels at them, right, they're going to have a different tier of like media user. Now, of course, like it's weird because like it's in relation to who's around you in public, but like over the scape of the world, you have the people that are like we're gonna say your grandma, right? There's the grandma users that are probably like from 0 to 150 followers, and those are the people that are there for their friends and family, right? They follow maybe a couple people that they thought were interesting, but like it is most definitely just their social bubble, right? I think above that you have the people that have, let's say, like 150 to like 1,000 followers, and like these are the popular people. These are the people that like don't really use social media that much, but they have enough friends or interactions in their life that like they have a following of a decent size of a couple hundred just because they know people. Then you have like the 1,000 to let's say 10,000. These are probably the people that are just like extra popular or are building some sort of image on a small scale, which I definitely fall into. And then from there, you have like your influencers, your actual famous people, and like world icons. But it's weird that all of us have now been placed into a social hierarchy that is very immediately apparent, right? And also at the same time, you have the possibility. It's not likely, but you have the possibility at any time to overtake everyone else, right? Like the egg is a great instance on Instagram where literally it became the most popular or most liked photo of all time, right? Like it had a larger following than literally everybody else. And that could be you. You could be the egg. So yeah,
I had to go and check. I had to go check my follower count. I was curious as you were going through the list.
like these are really rough numbers.
No,
right?
I know, but I had to go check.
Right, like you could live in a small town or only have like a handful of friends, and right, you could have like, let's say, literally 80 followers, but you could be the most popular person in your sample pool. But I tried to have that as like a general, just kind of this. These are most people.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Any commentary on that?
I agree. I don't know. It's not. It's yeah. I don't know. I don't know if I social media like. I guess it's very weird. I do not interact with influencers on social media very much. At least not on traditional platforms. Like at least not personalities. I feel are
Mm-hmm.
like very or a lot less with personalities. I interact a lot more with like reputable like tech YouTubers, I guess, like and like things like that. Like YouTube content is probably what I consume the most of.
That's fair.
Offline TV, I guess, is probably the closest to like personality, but it's like what I like the personality, I like the content, but I don't follow their socials. I follow their like content that they put out on YouTube and stuff like that. So, but yeah, no, I don't know. I have like I feel like I'm very very uninitiated and uh I don't know, unimportant, or like I'm not in the demographic of people I think to which a lot of that like social influencing caters to.
Right.
Like I'm a lot less interested in who uses what than I am in like how it works or what it is and like that kind of stuff. Like at least for as far as like traditional, like I know like it's talked about like influencers for like advertising and stuff like that. So, but I don't know. I'm like probably narrowing it down
Mm-hmm.
or like simplifying it a lot. I don't feel like I've ever like resonated very well with like popular social media. Like I have the extent of like most of the popular ones that I follow would be like meme pages.
Right.
And
And
like out of support, I followed like the socials for content creators that I support or like that I enjoy. Like I'll go follow them on whatever I have because like
you
whatever.
appreciate what they do.
My
Yeah.
little that's my coin in the hat.
That's fair. I thought like that. I chose Instagram specifically because I think it is the most like everyone uses it type of deal, right?
Yeah,
Like the
yeah.
same way. Like definitely you can engage differently, but it's like mostly the same. You post a story, you post a whatever, and then if you have a large following, you have the swipe ups, you have like the links to other thing. But like it's definitely true that I interact with people. Like I would say bigger social media people, like on YouTube or on like whatever, like Facebook, because like I would have a more intimate connection there.
Mm-hmm.
I was pulling up earlier. There's this guy that I saw on YouTube. He had like 10K followers, and I never subscribed to him, but I would just kind of check out his content because it would come up in my page, and then I watched him growing, like start growing, because I think he was at 10K, and now he's at 20, and it's only been like a month. And it's like
Good for
organic,
him.
yeah, like it's organic growth, and like I've interacted with him a few times. I have a couple friends that are content creators that like have, like million plus, and like I'm always genuinely interested in how their journey goes. But I would never reach out to them on Instagram because I feel like Insta like unless you knew them really well,
Mm-hmm. It's a very
Instagram,
casual platform. Instagram
right,
DMs feel weird, yeah.
right, like the only celebrity person I know that I will DM on Instagram is Nick Provost, because like we trained together for like a year, and so like I know him well enough to be like, yeah, I know he'll
Right.
respond, whatever. But anyone that I've met once or twice, I will message them on Facebook or through YouTube, just because like
Mm.
those are like, oh, I must have met them, like
Apparently, yeah. Apparently, Twitter DMs are like where it happens. Like Twitter DM is just where content creation. That's where business happens in media. Apparently, so I'm told. Or like, I was like, damn, that's rough. Maybe I should get a Twitter. God, I don't want to get a Twitter.
Yeah, I used to have a Twitter. I deleted it. I made a new one and I haven't done anything with it, but I plan to use it in the
Fair.
future.
I think I still have my old YouTube one from when I did Minecraft Let's Plays. Like I made a Twitter because like I went through I like ticked the boxes of like, yeah, let's go, we're gonna grow, and then promptly dropped everything because I was like 12 times.
Fair. Okay, so closing notes. What do you have to say about like the social media landscape today? Right, because it is undeniably a part of how we exist, and it will continue to, I think, increase, especially as we digitalize our world.
Yes, it is big. I think it got much bigger because we have the wonderful, wonderful circumstances of the last almost 12 months. God fucking damn it.
Yeah.
But yeah, my parents learned how to use WhatsApp. Isn't that crazy? My parents of like 55 and 65 now know how to use WhatsApp and are like on their phones. I don't get yelled at anymore for sitting in front of a screen all day.
Yeah,
So,
true.
you know what I mean? Like that kind of stuff where it's like I haven't been told to get out of the house and do something with my life in like
Yeah, I was gonna bring up
months.
screen time, but I was like, why even bother in today's world?
Why like what does it even matter? But like honestly though, like like realistically, like there is so much more of social media just present in everything. Like what I went to a pretty it was a little cringe, but I mean it existed and it was wholesome. It was like a Zoom birthday party for like what my 1-year-old niece. Yeah, my niece. I'm trying to think of how relationships work, but yeah. So like we had like the 1-year-old birthday party. It was all done over Zoom.
Nice.
And I was like, well, there you go. Yeah. And it's like, and this is like all run by like what my like parents that are like yeah, like I said, like 55 and 65 and like figuring out how to do all this stuff. So I think it'll just continue to be more and more important. Yeah. And being aware that just like in real life, like taking initiative in different ways will like yield you great results, and like finding like I think like an interesting way to like summarize is like you have like your like the public facing social media isn't really enough. Like it's kind of like just having the Instagram with all the pretty stuff on it is basically the same of just like showering and taking care of yourself hygienically and then going outside and then kind of just standing there.
You're right.
It's the equivalent to like it's like yep, you like you did the bare minimum.
Yeah.
Like but not even that. That's even the best part about social media. You literally can have no profile picture, no posts or anything, and you can still go out there and make friends and stuff. You don't even need to do like
That's true.
You don't even need to clean house. Like that all's optional, but like I feel like that's what everybody defaults to when they think of social media. And but yeah.
So yeah, I would say remember what you want out of social media and decide how you're going to get it, right? A lot of people say, I want to be famous or I want to make business connections or whatever. If you want to grow, if you want to get somewhere, look at what people in your field or want the same thing that you want and emulate that, right? For instance, if you just want to gain a following because you're a content creator, look at people who do the same stuff, post like similar types of things with your own twist, and get that kind of engagement, and hopefully you will grow organically that way. If you're just looking for friends, then make sure that it looks good enough that everything is aesthetic-ish and people are able to engage in your content if they want to, and then from there on you can use that as a tool to reach out to people more often, more frequently. But at the end of the day, right, like you are going to spend probably an unhealthy amount of time on the screen, so you might as well know what you're doing there and what you're trying to get out of it.
Yes, sir. I agree.
Fair.
Good shit.
Yeah, this has been False Advertising. Thanks for hanging out with us. We plan on doing a social media tier list soon with some other content creators. We're going to talk about the different social medias, what they're used for, kind of the high points and low points of them, and put them just kind of in a hierarchy, which will be cool. If you have any content suggestions, feel free to let us know. But this has been us.
See ya.